In this video, we're going to go over a specific type of puzzle that you could add to your game. I call this the 2 and U. So basically there's going to be these 2 different puzzle pieces you have to complete, and then the third puzzle piece to solve the puzzle is going to be U. So again, 2 statues and then U. For this, I'm actually going to use what we already have set up in our first room, which is the stag and the fox. So what I have currently is I go into here, I pick up the fox, I put it on here, opens up the door. Now what I want to do instead is I want to have it be that this door doesn't open until I activate some sort of switch at a different part of the room or the puzzle. Now ideally what you would probably do is have it be like, I don't know, like some sort of like parkour you have to jump up to and the switch is up here. Or it could be like this wall is open, you have to kind of like jump out and hit the switch maybe over here. I don't know. The example I'm going to show is pretty simple, but understand that when you go to do this in your own, it's kind of a nice option for you to have the player have to kind of explore different parts in order to complete the challenge. So anyway, let's do it. So what I am going to add is going to be a trigger box right here. And I'm going to put this trigger box over here. When I make trigger boxes, what I like to do is add a point light next to them. That way I can just see where they are. You know, trigger boxes are invisible, but if I have that light there, I know I'm supposed to go over here. I also like to kind of mess with the colors just because I think it's fun. So I have this trigger box over there. Now what I can do is I'm going to set this up similar to what I've already done with my puzzle over here. I'm going to take this and give myself a little bit more space. I'm going to do a begin overlap. And I'm going to do an end overlap. I'm going to cast to my first person character. And I'm going to cast to my first person character. Cool. And that'll set up the end and beginning. Now I am going to want to track a third object for this. So in this example, I'm going to add a Boolean. I'm going to call it, part 3 Boolean, because it's going to be the third part of this puzzle. And I can work through this. I can set the Boolean to be true. I can set the Boolean to be false right here. Now for this, what will happen is when I go into these different ones, these different Booleans will now need to contribute to this puzzle. So in order to make this work off of what already exists here, I'm going to attach it to here, attach it to here, and I'm going to add a third pin to this and attach my Boolean to right here. Now I understand I'm kind of reusing a lot that was already in here. So there is an earlier video that shows the fox and the stag that you could use to get that first part set up. But I'm essentially making this kind of third spot that has to be true in order for this all to be true. Now what this will look like is, well, that green is pretty intense. If I put this over here now, it doesn't open. But as soon as I go over here, it does open. Now what will be different about this puzzle is when I leave it, it closes. So if I want this to be something where the player has to activate it, most likely what I'm going to want to do is, for this, not reset the Boolean to be false when the character leaves. So I could break the link right there. I could delete it. It'll do the same thing. And really, I just don't need any of this end overlap right here. So I could go into here. I could hit play. Looks like I landed on the trigger box. Let's do that a little bit better. So I go into here. I go in. It doesn't open. But as soon as I go into here, the door will open. Now if I leave the trigger box, the door stays open. I could very easily leave everything I just had right here, and I could actually make like a third statue. I don't have all the resources memorized, but within the meshes folder, there's all sorts of different things that you could use to kind of try to make this third statue, so you just don't have just the fox and the stag. It could be a skull you put onto there, maybe some sort of torches you try to light, right? That once you have them all, you could actually set up the same way that we did with the fox and the stag. But this one I want it to be unique because I want it to be just me. Now I could try to have some fun with this, right? I could put this won't be fun, but the next thing will be more fun. I could put a trigger box right here. And I could say that when you go through this door, So I'm going to go into here, and I'll do a begin overlap here. From here, I could close the door. What this will solve is something I mentioned in the previous video. I'll go back to regular player start. Where after I put these on here, and I activate this third one, and as soon as I go through here, what will happen is the door will close. And this is really useful because it tells the player, hey, there's no reason you need to go back over here. Right? It kind of makes the player progress in a linear fashion. Now, other things I could do to try to have some fun with this is, rather than doing that trigger box right here, I could say when the character ends overlap, so I'll go back over to here, I'll say first person character. I could say when you end overlap, I could delay maybe a second. And then what I could do is close the door. So we'll see if that works. I pop this into here. I open the door, maybe. It goes in. And then when I end overlap, what should happen is after a second, the door will close. So I could try to work that into a way where the player has to kind of have some urgency, right? So what I would do is I would hit play. We'll see if I can even pull this off. I'll hit the trigger box. I'll start to run. I'll try to get through. And you can see the doors closing on me just in time. So again, all these little things try to help you set up the puzzle to be a challenge to the player. And again, it's a really cool little setup because I could have it be where maybe there's like a ramp down here where you have to roll something to and it has to land on that pin or maybe just pass through it once. And that could be the other part of the trigger, the other switch. Personally, I like using the player as a switch, but what you'll have to do is then devise a way that lets the player know that, you know, it has to be them right there. Like maybe it's some sort of pillar that, you know, looks like a person that you need to stand by, or it's kind of like a circular shape for you to go to. This green light serves the purpose in this tutorial, but it's probably not the like most descriptive way of letting the player know what they need to do. So